The air was heavy that morning. Clouds loomed low over the narrow streets of Bavnapur, a forgotten town shadowed by broken dreams and rusted hopes. In a crumbling one-room house tucked between cracked concrete walls lived a boy named Kabir. He was 15, slight of build, eyes sunken from sleepless nights, but within him simmered something the world couldn't see, something wild, fierce, and waiting to break free. His father, once a factory worker, had been laid off 3 years ago. Since then, silence had replaced smiles, and debts had replaced dinner. His mother stitched clothes for neighbors just keep food on the floor mat. School had become a luxury Kabir couldn't afford every day, but he still went barefoot, sometimes hungry, never hopeless. One evening, as Kabir sat under a broken streetlight scribbling formulas on torn paper, a man walked by. He was new in town, a retired professor named Mr. Senator. The old man paused, watching Kabir mutter equations to himself in the dark. Something about the boy reminded him of a fire he'd long buried. "You like math?" Son asked. Kabir didn't respond right away. Strangers rarely spoke kindly here. "Yes," he finally said, "more than anything." Son invited him the next evening. No promises, just tea and textbooks. From that day on, a ritual was born. Every evening, under the dull yellow light of Sen's living room, Kabir dived into numbers, theories, and dreams. His fingers danced over old pages, hungry to understand a world far from his own. But the world wasn't ready to cheer for him. Mockery became a constant. Your father begs for work and you want to be a scientist? They'd laugh. Even some relatives scoffed, suggesting he should pick up work and drop the foolishness. Each insult, each smirk burned Kabir, not with rage, but with reason. To rise, he knew, he had to disappear into silence, into work. So he worked days, nights, even through fever. When the National Science Scholarship exam approached, Kabir applied with borrowed stationery and an entry fee paid by Senator. He traveled alone to the city, nervous in an oversized shirt, stomach empty but heart full. The hall was packed with students from elite schools, their confidence shining in their branded shoes and fluent English. Kabir sat quietly, ignored the noise, and poured every bit of his life into that 3-hour paper. Weeks passed. Life resumed its slow grind, until one morning, the postman delivered a letter. Kabir had topped the entire country. Tears streamed down his mother's face as she held the letter like scripture. His father, for the first time in years, smiled without restraint. Sen cried silently, like a man watching his last seed blossom. But success didn't change Kabir. It deepened him. He got a full scholarship to a prestigious university. There, for the first time, he encountered imposter syndrome. Students debated confidently in English, attended global seminars, while Kabir struggled to construct basic sentences. For days he avoided people, ate alone, and studied like a madman. He recorded himself speaking, watched news in English, and read aloud in the mirror. Every night, he'd whisper, "I belong here." He built his voice like he built his mind, slowly, stubbornly. In his third year, Kabir presented a research paper on quantum computation. The room, filled with scholars and critics, fell silent at the clarity and brilliance of his ideas. The boy from Bavnapur had now become a voice the world listened to. He was offered an internship at a global tech institute, but Kabir declined. Instead, he returned to Bavnapur. He didn't go back to flaunt. He went back to build. Kabir started a small foundation for children like him, those with minds bright as stars, but lives burdened by shadows. He opened a free learning center in Sen's memory after Professor passed. There, under the same yellow bulb, new Kabirs began to dream. Years later, Kabir was invited to speak at an international education summit. As he walked onto the stage in a crisp black suit, thousands applauded. He stood before the mic, paused, and said, "I was never supposed to be here, but someone believed in me before I believed in myself. To every child who's ever felt invisible, I see you, and you are not your poverty. You are your possibility." The crowd rose, not out of politeness, but because they had witnessed something rare, a boy who didn't just climb the ladder, but built it for others. Kabir's journey became a symbol, not just of success, but of soul, of how faith, when mixed with fire, can build miracles. And in a quiet lane of Bhavnapur, under a flickering light, children still gather every evening. They whisper formulas, scribble dreams, and believe, because one of them made it, and so can they. And the story didn't end there. Kabir Center grew not in scale at first, but in depth. Children from nearby towns started arriving with dusty bags, eager hearts, and torn sandals. Some came walking miles just to sit in a room filled with worn-out books and borrowed hope. Kabir greeted each of them by name, looked them in the eyes, and reminded them that they mattered. He wasn't just teaching them science or math. He was teaching them dignity. He was showing them how to believe in themselves even when the world doubted them. The classroom had no walls, but it had windows of imagination. And every lesson was stitched with stories, of failure, of struggle, of rising anyway. One evening, a boy named Ishan approached him. Ishan had a stammer and avoided eye contact, his voice buried under years of ridicule. He wanted to quit school, convinced he was cursed. Kabir didn't correct him. He listened, then he handed Ishan a mic during an open class session and gently whispered, "Speak, stammer if you must, but speak your truth." It was the slowest, most painful 5 minutes of the class. But when Ishan finished, the room exploded into applause. Not because of what he said, but because he had said it. Ishan didn't stop smiling for a week, and he never stopped speaking after that. Kabir kept transforming lives, not with magic, but with presence. He was always there. For every student who fell, he was a quiet hand that picked them up without judgment. For every student who soared, he was the proud anchor that kept them grounded. Word spread. Media outlets visited. Government officials offered funding. Celebrities posted about him. But Kabir stayed rooted. He wore the same watch son had gifted him, ate from the same steel plate, and refused to let ego wear the mask of humility. One night, after a long day of teaching, Kabir sat alone on the rooftop of the learning center. He looked at the stars, wondering about the boy he used to be, the one who scribbled equations under a broken street lamp. He smiled. He hadn't escaped his past. He had brought light to it. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. An email. It was from a Nobel laureate. An invitation to collaborate on a global education project aimed at solving educational inequality. Kabir didn't react immediately. He closed his eyes and thought of his mother sewing late at night, his father searching for work, Sen's eyes full of faith, and every child who sat before him with dreams too big for their circumstances. He replied, "I accept, but only if we start with Bhavnapur." Today, Kabir is not just a teacher. He is a movement. And if you ever find yourself doubting your worth, unsure of your path, remember Kabir. Remember the silence he broke, the pain he turned into purpose, and the way he built hope out of nothing. Because greatness isn't born in comfort. It is carved out of chaos. And the smallest light, when nurtured, can outshine the darkest night. So no matter where you are, how broken you feel, or how far you've fallen, get up. Someone out there needs your story. Not when you've made it, but now. Because someone just like you is waiting for a reason to believe. And maybe, just maybe, you are that reason.